Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Sandra, as you all know, since you follow Sweet Science Coffee. But I'm very happy to be here today and have the opportunity to talk to a special lady that I've met. Actually, we haven't met, but we've met online. I found, I should say, on LinkedIn. And why don't you introduce yourself? Just tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. No, thank you, Sandra, for the invitation. I'm so happy to be able to share a little bit of my story and what I do with your community. So my name is Lucia Bawot. I'm born and raised in Colombia, but currently I live in the United States, and I've been working in the coffee industry for the past almost 13 years now, always as a photographer and filmmaker. So this took me to travel throughout Central and South America to document the stories of a lot of women coffee farmers, but also their families, like basically the whole coffee like farming community. And this was such a privilege. I think I've been to places that other people will never be able to go. And in 2023, I published my first book that is called We Belong, it's right here. And it's a book about women coffee farmers and pickers in Colombia. So I mentioned all of this to wrap it up with now I'm leading an organization that is called Sana. So in Sana, what we do is that we provide mental health and wellness through a program that is integrative. And why I ended up leading this organization and kind of moving away from my profession, it was because of the book and all of the women that I visited. I realized in my travels that these women were needing this mental health support, and there were not resources where they live. And it seems like the coffee industry and the sustainability projects have never looked at mental health as an option, even though mental health belongs in the sustainability agenda. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I feel so privileged and honored to be here.
Mhm. Wonderful. Since you mentioned it, your book is called, you said, We Belong. Can you just detour a tiny little bit to that? Was there a particular, I know, you traveled and you met, I'm sure, a lot of people. Was there a particular kind of pivotal moment where you thought, because I have to do more. I have to kind of put that out there, just because noticing something is one thing, but then actually to go, because it's a long process to, not to write a book, but also then to, create a nonprofit organization around a mission and a cause.
Yeah, if someone had asked me like 5 years ago that you, Lucia, I think you're gonna be leading an organization. What do you think about that? I would be like laughing and say, no, no way. I'm a photographer. That's what I love doing. But that's life, right? So yeah, to put into like a concrete moment. Even though I'm Colombian, I have experience in the coffee industry. I spent many hours with a lot of coffee farmers. Going back to Colombia to create the content for this book was completely different. Like those travels were different because I was not there with a particular agenda. I didn't have like goals in mind as I always had when I travel for my client work. So basically, I was there to be curious. I was really genuinely curious about them. I just wanted to listen and see behind the scenes, something that I never had a chance to do. So I think that's why this changed a lot my perception about the industry and how I feel about women coffee farmers. So basically, the pivotal moment, or the moment that really stuck with me and why I decided to create Sana, was the 62 interviews I did with these women. So I spent few days with all of them, with some more, with others less time, depending on the schedules and stuff. But we always had like a time and a date where we did the structured interview. And in those interviews, for me, it immediately felt like that was a therapy session. I remember always thinking, sitting there like, wow, this feels like a therapy session. I feel these women were opening up emotionally so much. It was cathartic for them. And towards the end of the interview, almost all of these women told me, this is the first time I'm sharing this particular experience with someone, or this is the first time I'm putting sound and cadence to this experience, right? So for me, that was eye-opening because, as I mentioned before, I had been working documenting sustainability programs and hearing so much about gender equity in the coffee industry and how much we needed all these programs. But it felt that no one had really listened to these women and that they were carrying a lot of emotional baggage and that they had nowhere to put it. And they didn't have enough tools to navigate life. And for me, I'm a huge mental health advocate. And I believe that without mental health, we cannot thrive in any other part of our lives, because mental health is basically how we feel, how we think, and how we interact with others. So that's why, for me, it became so evident. And once I published the book, I had made a commitment to send a percentage of the proceeds back to these women. So when the time came, I decided that, well, I'm not going to send this as like money, and I don't want to make it so transactional. Why
Mhm.
don't I create a program that focuses on mental health and wellness? Since
Mhm.
I felt at the moment like I have a lot of experience with this group of women, because I never thought I was going to grow this into an NGO. So I was like, well, I know these women, I know their background. Why don't I try to create a program that fits their needs and see if it works? So that's
Mhm.
why I did it. And it turned out to be a successful program. And I'm so grateful because of the women that say, yes, I want to participate. Because, of course, I was apprehensive. Mental health in rural communities has such a stigma. But they were there and they wanted to participate. They were open. And they really benefited. So that made it even more clear that this couldn't end just with 39 women who were the ones in the pilot, and that more deserve to have this access to this same program.
So tell me a little bit, because the women that I know you did a pilot program to basically test the waters and see how the reception would be. Um, and I was when we first spoke, I was really surprised to hear. I mean, it was great, but I was surprised to hear that. I think you said 62% knew beforehand, basically what you just said, that it would be good for them to have some kind of help before the program even came around. And
Mhm.
so tell me a little bit, or share a little bit about, what does outreach, once you really started, what did that look like? Because you said mental health, but you're not doing classical therapy, right? It's more like is it a support prevention structure? Talk a little bit more about that, if you don't mind. How do you reach, how do you do specific outreach for that program?
Yeah. So even though I'm not a psychologist, I believe that when you're close enough to a community and you've really been there and have experienced firsthand how they live and have listened so deeply and carefully of what they need, I feel like that's when like fresh minds can like really feed into new programs and new ideas. So, and I think that's what happened to me basically. So I
Okay.
surrounded myself with the right professionals. I hired psychologists to help me create the model, and now we have a full team of psychologists that are experts in the field that go through a lot of interviews before we select them. But how did we approach them? So for me, there were three things. The first one, when I started thinking about what mental health and wellness, like why is this important to them? And the first thing that I thought is, I often hear that what they offer in the coffee industry as gender equity programs is training, is education. But they always complain, like companies always complain about these women not attending, right? Like they don't attend, or they go and they don't participate. So I combine all of the things that the women told me, the emotional baggage, with this experience that was coffee experience, meaning they don't feel confident. They don't feel that they can speak up. They don't feel that they can be leaders. But we keep saying that they need to be leaders, that they need to speak up, and that we need to have more gender equity. So this was like the combination that I first thought. So I was like, okay, so if these women have such like emotional baggage, this means they don't have the bandwidth to even consider any other opportunity or thing in their lives. So that was the first thing. And that's mental health. Like we need to process things that have happened to us in the past, how we feel right now, understand it, create our own toolkit so we can start like navigating and opening spaces in our mind to prioritize other things. And the second thing is that, okay, if we want these women to be leaders, which is incredible, yeah, we know women, if we were in more leadership positions, things would be better, not only in coffee, but in a general sense. So that's also mental health. We need to build self-worthiness, self-esteem, self-confidence, and all of those things are attached and are mental health. So that was the first thing. So I was like, okay, this definitely is something that the coffee industry needs for women coffee farmers first, but for any farmer. The second thing is when I thought about how to design this program, I thought about them and their geographical location and their time poverty. So a lot of these farmers, they live in places in Colombia that is really hard to get to. That's why before I was saying a lot of people will never go to those places because it takes time. It's far, it's secluded, there's not a lot of transportation. And on top of that, these women have time poverty because they not only do up to 70% of the farm labor, but they're the ones in charge of the household duties and the child care, taking care of the kids, right? For the most part. Of course, there are exceptions, but for the most part. So when we think about, okay, these women are like secluded, geographical location is really far, that means they have less resources. That's just a fact. And second, that they have time poverty. I immediately thought this has to be a program that is virtual. We cannot ask these women to have to leave the farm to access a resource and a service that for a lot of them, they were doing it for the first time. So that's why Sana is 100% virtual, because they take the calls and they get the resources and they participate in our 5-month programs, always online. So they get that community support, but they also get their individual teletherapy sessions. So everything is a combination that is tailored for them. So that was the second thing that I thought. And the third one is that when we think about mental health not only in rural communities, but even in cities and in countries like the US, that it seems like that we're more advanced with mental health, there's a lot of stigma. So when I thought about this program, I always thought like this has to be something that is integrative. We cannot pretend that we're going to solve this issue by just offering clinical therapy. And what I mean by clinical therapy is a treatment. Is when you go to a psychologist, they diagnose you and they say, okay, you need to be here for 6 months to try to solve your issue, and that's it. So that's not how this was going to work, because for a lot of them, it was the first time. But second of all, we don't even know what they need, right? We're just learning and seeing behind the curtain. So why is this integrative? Is because we have teletherapy sessions, which is like virtual therapy with the right professionals, Colombian female psychologists with experience working with rural communities. But also we have that community aspect, because it's not something that we say at Sana, but it's something that is being said in different studies that mental health, yes, there's a portion that you have to do your individual work. It's really introspective. But the other part is the community, right? So to make those changes and those mindsets shift sustainable in time, we need to have a community that supports this. We need to have like almost like a mirror where we can say, oh, there's another person that feels the same way. So I don't feel so bad talking about this, or I don't feel so bad of feeling this way. So that's why we have a whole virtual space where these women interact, get to know each other, get to read and listen to their own experiences. And lastly, and this is really, really important, is the educational component. And I believe this method and this model would work in a city. It will work for someone that has a higher level of education. So why is it important to have education? So in psychologists, they call it psychoeducation, but I don't like using terminology because it just makes things really complicated. But basically, we have designed a curriculum tailored for these women, where we take them from day one to the last day of the program, and we kind of equip them and guide them. So first, like the first phase of the program will be, what is mental health? What is it important? What are the components? How can you use this in your own life? Then we go into how are you going to experience that first therapy session? How to maximize that time? What to expect from that session? And then we move into deeper topics. So we talk about grieving, assertive communication, and we talk about self-esteem and speaking in public. And all of these topics we have chosen from what we saw in the pilot, and we continuously are changing and adapting that curriculum. But what I wanted to say is, like in the beginning, what we do is really important, because once they get to those teletherapy sessions, they know what they're there for. They know what to expect. And I believe this will be helpful for people in the city too, in cities too, because I remember the first time I went to the psychologist, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was there for. What do I have to say? What are they going to ask me? What are the things that you need to consider Even like thinking about, is my information here is the psychologist gonna keep the information private? Is
Is
this
it
like,
safe? Yeah,
exactly,
is it
is
a
it
safe space?
safe?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this the right professional for me? Did this person set certain expectations of what we're gonna do? So we tell the participants this. We're really clear and we tell them all of these things, and day to day, week after week, we guide them. So this is really important, and this is psycho education, and we're all of our program is based on social psychology. So social psychology basically is that we not only consider the person, but we consider their context, and their context not only in the sense where they live, who they're surrounded by, but also the tools they have now. And that's really important because, again, we cannot approach these women and tell them, we're going to diagnose you because you are sick and then we're going to cure you. Because that, first of like, they're not going to be motivated to participate. And second of all, we don't know what they need yet. We might find a participant that needs a deeper care and needs a treatment. But for the most part, maybe with a few sessions, they can figure things out, they can see other perspectives, they can get some tools that will help them navigate what they're going through. And the last thing I will say is that when we think about mental health, for whatever reason, we always associate mental health only with therapy. But working on your mental health is also working on educating yourself about what it is. And it's also working on building and strengthening your community and your networks. And I think that's two buckets that we tend to forget. So we do it in an integrative way so these women can really like feel that they're more educated, do some internal work and introspective, learn tools from the psychologist and build their own tools. But at the end, they can also learn from the community and build that network that in the future they can keep reaching out to.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I think that is changing a little bit now, especially in neurobiology, when you talk about neuroplasticity and basically this aspect of you're not broken. There's this approach of, okay, what can we fix? And you
Exactly.
immediately go into a situation thinking there's something wrong with me
Exactly.
initially. And I can totally relate to what you said with when there's some type of community where someone, just one other person says,
Mm-hmm.
oh, no, like I'm the same. Like not everybody can be broken. So if we're all kind of feeling the same, then no one's broken, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um,
The other day, like I was participating in a webinar, and we invited a psychologist to give her perspective
yeah.
on Sana, and she
Okay.
said something that is stuck with me, and she said like, why this program is successful and it will continue to be is because what they're providing is a safe space where these
Mm,
women can finally feel not guilt, but they can feel openness to talk about things that they thought they were normal or things that they felt that they were not right. And now they feel, here I can speak up. And there are other women that are going through the same or even
yeah.
more difficult things like me. So no one is going to judge. Finally, I can open, I can talk.
Yeah.
And the journey starts when you speak, when the first time you say that thing that you never dare to say before, that's when the whole process starts. And it's not a
Yeah.
healing process, it's more a process where you now are open to say, okay, I can change. Okay, there's some other person that feels the same. Okay, maybe I can do something about it. Or, okay,
Right.
I say this and wow, I feel so light now, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even probably in the beginning, because I know we talked about community and that there's, I think, a WhatsApp group you mentioned where,
Mm-hmm.
women can connect. Even if you don't necessarily, I imagine, share right away, but you're just there, you're just reading. I can imagine that some people just take longer, but then eventually they will share or they will,
Mm-hmm.
participate in some way or type in some way.
Yeah,
And
totally.
and that's good that you can give that space and just say everything is completely fine,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah, yeah.
in the way you want to do it. So how you already touched on so many of the aspects. So the program is 5 months. Is that the time frame? Okay. Um, And if it's all virtual, how did you manage to, or how do you still obviously manage to put it together so it works logistically as far as tech is concerned? Like, do people need laptops? Do they have phones? Like, how is that? How does that work?
Yeah, so that was my question too when I first thought about this idea.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I was apprehensive. I was like, well, first, do they want to participate in this kind of program? And the second question I always ask myself is like, oh, do they have the technology infrastructure to be able to access the services? And what I believe now, we did the pilot with 39 women, and currently we have 66 women enrolled in SAN.
Wow.
So
Okay.
what we found is that 100% of them have phones. And right now, all of the ones that are enrolled have smartphones and access to internet, and they know how to use WhatsApp, and they're
Okay.
able to receive calls via WhatsApp or just a basic phone call. So that's just to give you a general sense. Of course, not all communities have the same access. I think like there's no program that will be perfect for everyone. So definitely we do like a filter when we are choosing the groups of women that are going to participate, and we are pretty like straightforward from the beginning. This is what you need to be able to participate. So of course
Mm.
there are some communities that won't be able to join, but more and more I think internet connection is getting better in Colombia, is expanding. Now there are all like new companies that are have entered Colombia from the US that are providing other types of internet that is satellite. So that's providing more and more access to information and technology to these communities.
Hmm.
So of course I cannot say everything always goes extremely well. Not even in a city. I often like here in the US, I often lose my internet connection. So
You know, I live with the lady downstairs, and when we're both, and we have two routers, and this is in Texas, and sometimes when she has a Zoom call and I have a Zoom call, I kid you not, we're like literally, "Are you online?" She's like, "Yeah," and we have strong internet. So
yeah,
this is actually impressive if you pull it off most of the time.
yeah. So yeah, so we have built like my team, like they know this. They're pretty resilient and adaptable. They know that that is one of the challenges that we face.
Okay.
Weather, there are things that we cannot control. If there is a storm in that specific area, that one woman more likely is gonna lose her internet that day, or the connection is not gonna be as good. But for the most part, they're able to do it. They're able to do it, and the psychologists are able to do video calls. At the moment, I think 92% of the sessions have been done through a video call, and the remaining we've done just phone calls because of the internet connections, or even because the woman say, no, I just want to do a phone call. I don't wanna see you. I feel like less scary if it's just a phone call. So yeah, we found that there is the technology infrastructure, and because we make sure before they join that they have a certain like quality of internet, then we're
Mm.
able to do it. We also provide technology allowances when maybe the woman wants to participate, but she doesn't have like a data plan. She just pays daily. So we can provide that technology allowance to be able to provide for the data while she's in the program. And so far, so good. I think it's only going to get better. Of course, if we think about other countries like Peru, to give you an example, it will be tougher, and maybe that's where we will have to wait a little bit more before we can expand into that origin. But yeah, it's been really interesting to see like all of them know how to use WhatsApp. They use WhatsApp not only with us but with their family. They love sending audios. They also share images and videos with us, because a lot of the exercises that we provide is not only education, we also have some exercises and activities that they have to participate and send photos and send audios, and they're able to do it. So I think like maybe we're a little bit biased, and when we think about farmers, we often think about people that don't know how to do a lot of things, or because they don't have the level of education that we believe is needed or required to be able to understand technology. That maybe that's what we think that maybe they can. But I think that's changing a lot. Of course, when we have the older participants, maybe are the ones that have a little bit more, like less of an understanding on how to use the phone. But it's been good, and we've shown that through Sana that they're able to access this kind of services with a phone.
Yeah. So that actually is a good point that you just mentioned. What are because I think you told me that because Colombia is such a big coffee producer, obviously, it's such a big origin. 31% of workers or people that work in the coffee industry in Colombia, you told me, are female. But there is not just pickers, right? Because the average person thinks, oh, it's got to be a farm worker like picking, but that's not the case, right? You work with completely women in completely different roles. Is that
Mm-hmm.
true?
Yeah, so I think what you were trying to say is 31% of the coffee farming workforce are
Hmm.
women coffee farmers. And this is data that I pull out from the FNC, which is the National Coffee Federation of Colombia. And why I like this number is because in this number, the only women that are included are the women that are registered in the FNC, and for the most part, they own some kind of land or farm. So this 31% doesn't include all the workers that are female, and it doesn't include a lot of the coffee farmers that don't own a land but live in a farm and do a lot of that 70% work, but their work in like to make it like clear, maybe they don't get paid or recognized for a lot of the work they do, and because they don't own land, it doesn't appear
Mm,
anywhere. They're kind of like invisible
got it.
labor, but labor that it is so important. And if we didn't have the labor, we wouldn't be drinking coffee today.
Yeah, that's a very true point. What is the age range of your participants, the ones that you have right now?
Yeah. So
The-
right now, at the 66 women coffee farmers, we have women from 18 years old to 71.
oh wow. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's everything. It's
Yeah,
everybody.
and our average age right now is 45 years old.
Okay. So they are, then the external situations and family structures are also different, obviously, I imagine, from probably, like literally working moms with smaller children all the way up. Okay.
Yeah, most of them are mothers, and
Mm-hmm.
there is like a combination, but we don't only work with women that own land because we don't buy coffee, so that's not so important for us.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of participants that they live in a farm, work in the farm, their husband owns the land, has the farm, she's
Okay.
involved in the farm labor, but she doesn't own a piece of land or a farm.
Got it. So what's the if you could sum it up, what is your do you have a favorite feedback? I'm sure you're asking for feedback all the time, but is there a story of someone that stuck out to you where you were like, oh yeah, this is so nice to hear?
Oof, there's many, I
I mean, I'm sure there
think.
are many, but
Yeah, there's many different types of feedback, but I believe the most important one is that they acknowledge the importance of having that space where they can speak openly
Mhm.
with a professional that is not judging, and that they feel a lot of relief and kind of like I'm being understood, I'm being listened, I'm being heard. I think that's one of the constant feedback we get. And again, I feel that this is really important because in the coffee industry, a lot of companies think that they're doing a lot of efforts towards gender equity. But I don't believe that, because if that was the case, these women wouldn't be telling us that they finally feel heard, that someone finally is listening to what they have to say. Because we cannot create a program. We cannot like have all these efforts that we think are going to change or going to impact certain community. In this case, women coffee farmers, we cannot create something without their opinion, without their acknowledgement, without their saying, yes, this is what we need. So for me, I think that's the biggest thing. And then we have a lot of things. We have a lot of women that are going through a lot of grieving, different types of grieving, and they're able to process and gather many tools to go through that grieving and little by little feel like, oh, okay, I feel better. I think I can get out of this.
Okay, excuse
And
me.
then the other thing is stories about domestic violence and gender-based violence. We see that a lot in our groups, and that's something that is not only going to change because we provide this efforts and these resources to women coffee farmers, I think in the future we will also like to have a program that approaches men as well. But that's going to take time, and we also have to tailor it for them. But I think it has to be a combination. But for the time being, I think is making these women aware of what they have been through, giving them tools and space where they can say things and understand what happened to them. And with the different strategies that the therapists provide, they can feel better. They can feel less guilty, and they can keep living life. And hopefully in the future, when we can provide this program for men too, we can also not only judge them or tell them what all the things they do wrong, but
Mhm.
also bring them in a kind way, because men also go through other challenges and emotional challenges that are as important and as women, as the women like challenges too.
Yeah. I think what you just said is a beautiful bridge to where I did want to go next, which is to touch a little bit on the industry at large. Because right now, I mean, everybody knows we're in a pretty shifting, kind of wobbly, changey, uncertain time. And I was curious to ask you if you have thoughts on how do you say that? So how do you think, or in what vessel would you imagine there could be potential for making the biggest impact? Because of course we're talking about money first often, and
Mm-hmm.
money is needed obviously for
Mm-hmm.
programs, but there's this money first mindset in the West. Money fixes. Like I think you touched on that earlier. You didn't just want to send money from your book, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for good reason. And then
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to create something that has a lasting impact. And of course, that's playing the long game. Takes time. So, where do you think could be, the could be the biggest impact made? Would it be global corporations, which now we only merger, we only have a few left that are pretty monolithic, standing there on their own. But of course, they have tremendous resources in that regard. Or do you see a bigger, more lasting impact, really more with a grassroots like network situation where you have a family of smaller businesses working together, or maybe both? Can you share some thoughts on that when you
Yeah,
look to
no,
the future?
that's a hard question to answer. I believe it will have to go both ways. I think that even though we all have opinions about these large corporations, I think it's something that is really hard to just detach from, right? They already
Mhm,
have such much power, and they have so many like resources, right? So it's hard to just say no. I'm not gonna count on these corporations
mhm,
to run my organization. So I think it goes hand in hand.
mhm,
But what I wanted to say is that I think when we think about coffee, yes, there are a lot of uncertainties now. I think there are a lot of moving pieces, and we're trying to understand what's going to happen in the future. And I think that that is what farmers go through every single day. They're the ones that have the most resilience, and they're the ones constantly being faced with uncertainty. So how great that finally we as a whole industry are experiencing that same about uncertainty. And we keep asking them to be more resilient. And I always believe, like, how much more resilient can these farmers be? If they're
right,
the ones that cannot control the weather, they cannot control climate change, but they're being like kind of judged and point at like, you have to do more efforts to be more like greener in your farm. And they're not the ones really contaminating this planet if we like compare it with who really are there people responsible behind climate change now. So I think like it is important that now we're being faced with these uncertainties, and what this only like boils down to is that we're all human, right? and we all have the same dreams. We go through the same human experiences. We all want to succeed. We all want to be able to thrive in our communities, in our roles. We want to support our families. And it's the same with farmers. So why do I believe these kind of programs are required in the coffee industry is because what are we going to do with a coffee variety that is like more resilient to climate change, like resistant to less water or like higher temperatures? Or what are we going to do with a different, I don't know, like with better agricultural practices if we don't have farmers that are healthy and that they feel they have quality of life to be able to grow it? They're going to just leave their farms, and then that's the end of the story. We won't have coffee because coffee, even though it comes from a plant, is we require a human to be able to 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 harvest it and to bring it into the hands of the people that loves to drink it. And we, as like in the US, as consumers, we rely so much on coffee. Like, I don't think we understand how much. Like 60% of consumers in the US drink up to 547 cups of coffee a year. So that's going to impact our day to day, our rituals, what we like to do, the energy we get from coffee. So I think that we have to go back to the human aspect of this industry and invest in that human aspect, not only for farmers. I see a lot of people that are in corporations in high roles that are suffering from burnout, and they don't talk about it. And they just take some vacation time, and they don't take it to rest. They take it because they need to. They feel they cannot do this anymore. So I think we need to open this conversation more. And as I was saying at the beginning, mental health is sustainability too. And I will say that mental health should be the first on the list of sustainability, because if we have people that have the tools, the emotional tools, people that are healthy, that they live fulfilling lives internally, then we can move into the other aspects. How are they managing the money? How can they get more education about the agricultural practices? They're going to have more tools. They're going to know how to lead. They're going to know how to navigate those challenges. And of course, and this is the last thing I will say, we cannot separate mental health from having enough resources in life. Like money is important. We cannot live in this planet and in this planet Earth if we don't have money, because that's our currency for everything, right? So it has to be a combination. It has to be a combination for companies. We need to think about money and how can we keep making money out of this product, but we also have to think about the humans and how are those humans, right? So I think it has to be a balance, and they cannot be only one program that companies invest in. There have to be multiple, and some programs are going to be more data forward and others cannot be, and that should be okay too.
Yeah. See, and this is this is so great. Like you're making the great bridges to the things that I definitely wanted to cover, because like the closest to last, we're going to talk about how people can reach and help you. But one thing that I was really looking forward to at least touching on is the product itself, and the role it can play in people's lives. Because for me, obviously, I am at the consumer end of things, but I've traveled to origin, so I'm not like blind or anything. But I come from education. I come from that background. And for me, I always thought it's so simple. It should be so simple because whoever grows the product and whoever on this end consumes it, those are the two most important. Those are the pillars. It's like a hammock. You can't hang a hammock without, or hammock. I'm German, so you know what I mean, like the thing
Yeah,
that
a hammock.
flips,
Yeah.
hammock, right?
Yeah,
You can't hang it if you don't have at least two things to kind of attach it to.
exactly.
And for me, that's like the simple truth. Without either one of those groups, nothing in the middle truly matters, and nothing in the middle can truly be productive or have
Mm-hmm.
a profit
Mm-hmm.
ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm teaching, and this is beautiful because you already touched on that. I never used to teach just the craft, just the chemistry. There was always a side of mindfulness. It is a contemplative beverage, for me, the ultimate contemplative beverage. It's not just about the caffeine and that craft aspect that literally you don't even have to try. It brings you back into your body via your
Mhm.
senses. It's not like I'm
Mhm.
doing a thing. I'm putting a meditation on my schedule. No,
Mhm.
you do something with your hand and it does something for you in return. And I noticed within maybe the last 2 years or so, I did notice that the class requests that we're getting come more from small teams, come more from small groups, small businesses that, have a totally different structure. Yes, they also want to drink the coffee, they want to learn about it, but more and more it's this, oh, the little attunement you did at the beginning. That was so cool. And then I hear the same things that you told me earlier.
Mhm.
We're so privileged on the external,
Mhm. Mhm.
and everybody has very different external life situations. But there are so many people who seem to be disconnected and feel isolated and
Mhm.
face uncertainty in their
Mhm.
jobs and where are we going, and change. It's the same undercurrent
Mhm.
that is prevalent. And so that's where, I'm always interested in touching base with someone like you because you're really at this origin end, but you're also here. You're kind of like bridging the two. And I wonder, no one knows what the future will bring, but there is a lot of debate about, can coffee still bridge people? Can it still bridge communities? Does it still
Mhm.
have this function where it's
Mhm.
really just, it's just coffee? Like it's not a big
Mhm.
deal,
Mhm.
but it actually can bring people together. Or are we tipping the scales and saying, no, it has to be super fun. It has to have, all kinds of bells and whistles and theatrics, and it has to be an experience, like don't,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
there's like this really interesting field in between, I feel like, where people try to figure out no one knows what's gonna happen, but where people try to figure out how far do we go with this? What else can we add? Can we do RTDs, nootropics, adaptogens?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can we hire someone to juggle cups in the cafe? I mean, there's like all kinds of stuff, and I wonder, do you have any thoughts on the basic role of coffee in all of this? And obviously, there's no right or wrong, but it can tip easily into the coffee isn't even the thing anymore. Like no one
Mhm.
cares about the quality, the flavor notes. That's what I keep hearing or seeing, at least on some platforms where it's like no one cares about that. No one cares about the education.
Yeah.
Therefore, no one really cares about where it's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of an open-ended question,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
No, I
it's
do
like
think like I've always been pretty open and with this opinion, and I believe that the coffee industry, as we see it in the specialty side of things, is a niche, and it will continue to be a niche. And the only way that we can open that up and like grow it is that if is the only way is if we stop mandated the way that it has to be drink,
mm,
how people have to make it, how interested people do need to be about everything that we love because we work in this industry. So yes, I also have been seeing a lot of marketing information about this. I believe coffee will continue to be a community kind of glue. And why I
mm,
say this is because what they're finding is that consumers connect to certain companies not because of all the education they provide and the information about where the coffee comes from and the process and the altitude of the farm and all these things, but because of the actual like motto of that company. And they
right,
say this resonates with me, so therefore I will continue to purchase coffee from this brand because
right,
we have aligned values. So that doesn't mean they don't care about the people that are producing it, but they need to have a certain concept that will resonate with them. And I always come back to my book. When I was creating my book, I wanted to create a book that was for everyone, not just for coffee professionals or people that work in the coffee industry. And that's why I say that my book is not really about women toiling in a coffee plantation, but my book
Mhm.
is about women that go through the same human experiences as anyone else. And that's why we explore childhood and motherhood and the fact that we're all hustlers, because those concepts are the ones that can help people connect and say, so actually I don't see that farmer as someone with dirty hands, which they might be because they work in the field and with dirt, but now I see it as a mother just like me, or I see it as a hustler just like me. The difference is that I hustle behind a computer and she hustles in a farm, right? So I think, yes, we need to start like spreading concepts and kind of making the consumer come closer to the values of the companies and the values they have. So yeah, I believe that, and I think like when we look at Sana from the marketing aspect, so when I have to pitch Sana to a
Yeah, because
company
you
and
have
say,
to, right, you have
yeah,
to
invest in my
communicate
company.
to
Yes.
partners. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
so the first aspect is, of course, like gender equity starts with mental health, and we should invest in women coffee farmers because they're the ones doing a lot of the work that is unpaid and recognized. And without these women, these communities won't be able to thrive. That's just a fact. They're the ones that
hmm
spend the most time with the children. So there are a lot of things why women are really important and why we should be prioritizing this work with women first. But the second thing that I always tell them is like, as your clients, are you as your consumers about their mental health, and you're gonna find out that people are struggling internally, as you were saying. It might
hmm
appear that you're making enough money, but maybe inside you feel empty. You are lacking on that community, that connection. You are lacking of places where you can speak. You feel overwork, burnout. So at the bottom, like if you look at everyone, we are going through similar experiences. The difference is our background, maybe our social economical status, the place where we're from, our profession. But people right now, I think, are longing and asking for more connection and for more mental health resources. Because if we look at it at like as like globally,
hmm
the mental health diseases are growing and growing and growing, and people are getting sick. So this is not just now talking about someone needed a space to speak, but people are suffering from depression, anxiety. People are suffering from PTSD, and these numbers are growing and growing and growing. Suicide rates are growing exponentially every single year. So if that doesn't show how much we need these resources and how expensive it is, because even in the US, it's like I cannot do therapy here. It's impossible. I have to go and do
I,
therapy with someone in Colombia. So I always ask my like the people I pitch Sana to, like, connect with your customers through this, and you're gonna see that they will be happy to support a mental health program because they feel that they also need that mental health support, or they have lived through kind of a mental health challenge. So that's the way that you connect with a consumer. It doesn't necessarily, we never talk about coffee. We talk about something that they care about, something that has touched them personally, or family or partners or friends. And
yeah.
everyone is always going to tell you, yeah, I know this person that committed suicide, or I know this person that is suffering from depression, or my mom had postpartum depression, or this and that. So I think that's the best way to connect with with consumers. And then, of
hmm
course, you're always going to have a percentage of consumers that want to know more and that want to get more into it. And you should have that content for those. But yeah, I believe that if we keep sharing that our coffee is high quality, that this is the profile, that these are the notes, that this is, people just get bored. They say, I just want to buy
Mm.
my coffee. So I do
I
agree
mean,
with that.
yeah. I mean, I wrap it into it. It's like with us, it's It's like when when you have a dog and you have to give him a pill and you cannot wrap it in a piece of sausage and you hope that he swallows everything. That's kind of, I realized the other day, it's kind of my approach, because I want to club people over their head with something heavy when they come for an experience. They want to have fun and they want to do the nerdy chemistry stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of come through the back door there, because, so it has some sense of lightness, because I feel like people then also, you can just say, oh, hey, how's your mental well-being today? And they'll be like, can I have a latte? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
not what
yeah.
I'm here for. But I think, yeah, that's a good point that you're making. And that, it's always about the finding that tone of voice, or that way for people to actually relate to something. So on that note, to close out, tell me, like, what does it cost for someone to participate? Like, how much do you basically need if people want to help out, and how can they get involved?
Super. Yeah. So how I will start this is that we have to think about that gender equity always has to start with mental health, and how that's like, for us, that's like our motto, and that's what we keep repeating ourselves. How much like is a program for a woman is $300, and this includes all the services for the 5 months, everything:
Sorry, I
therapy,
cannot.
education, the community support. We have transportation allowances, technology allowances, everything. It covers everything. So if we divide that into a year, it's $25 a month for someone to
Okay.
make that donation monthly. And that's nothing. I always say that's basically going out and doing brunch. If
I
that.
was, yeah, I shouldn't smirk. Like, I was smirking because that's, yeah, that, oh my gosh, yeah, that ties so into this whole situation with mental, like, what's available in terms of mental health care. I know people, you can't even get an appointment, and
Exactly.
it's per hour. It's like
Exactly.
that,
Exactly.
so yeah. Or it's a fancy dinner for two, and maybe not even that fancy, depending depending on where you're going.
Yeah,
So
300.
wow,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But when I see
well,
it in monthly, it's like it's $25. Like if you skip one brunch a weekend, then you can support a woman and their mental health and their well-being. Then other ways to participate and to get involved. In October, we're gonna be uh, like releasing our October Give Back campaign. So this is a campaign where we are asking different roasters and cafes. So right now we have 14 companies that already joined the
nice.
campaign. So how can you support the campaign? Go and buy the item they chose for the campaign. So we have roasters from all over the US, and a lot of them ship international even.
Mhm.
So you can buy
Mhm.
the bag, and they're donating 10% of per bag sold back to Sana. And some of them have even chosen a drink out of their menu, and they're donating 20% per drink back to Sana. So that's an easy way, because it's a win-win. You get to try a coffee, but you're also supporting Sana. You drink an amazing beverage, and you're also supporting Sana. So yeah, like if you want to know what companies are participating, what are the items they chose for the campaign, in our social medias, we're gonna be posting all this information, so you guys can follow
Okay,
Sana and Sana_programs. And right there, we're gonna be sharing all the information throughout the month to kind of like give all these companies a shout out, and be really straightforward. What are the items that you can purchase so you can support the company and you can support our programs too?
perfect. Is that on your website as well? Okay,
Yes,
because
it's on
I'm
our
gonna link
website.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
our website is sanaprograms.org.
.org. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna link that also, in the comments. But just so people know where to look up, maybe it's a local roaster to them, so that would be great if they can just
Exactly.
basically stop by and get a bag of
Exactly.
beans.
Yeah, we
Doing
have
that.
companies from the US, we have companies from Canada, companies from Spain, Germany. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
who in Germany? The barn?
Is a boat,
Oh,
VOT, yes,
okay,
BOTE.
cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Very nice. That's
yeah.
awesome. Oh man, I gotta, yeah. Woo. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. We obviously, as you know, so gonna say that for our viewers, we're gonna participate as much as we can as well. So all the way through October, we're gonna run a promotion, give people a lot of percentage off of gear so they don't buy it elsewhere, and then also donate 10% to your cause, which I
Thank
think
you.
is super
Yeah.
important.
I
Yeah.
was gonna give you that shout out that you guys are also part of the campaign. So easy to
Please
support.
do.
Just go to the website and purchase those items from your website.
Yeah, we should cross promote for sure. I think it's such a um it's not just obviously such a neat and such a great program, but I really respect it. It's easy to see something but not fix it and say, oh, I'm aware of it. It takes a lot, I think, to actually pull something like this off and have this calling and the resilience really and the tenacity to say, yeah, I will work through, or we will work through all of these challenges because it's a worthy cause. I really respect and applaud that,
Thank
what
you.
you're
No,
doing there,
thank you.
for sure. Yeah,
Thank you so much. And
cool.
yeah, I believe that I always say that my biggest advice always is take action. I think that as you were saying, sometimes we just sit and say, well, maybe someone else will do it, or no, I don't think I'm the right person to for the job, or I'm not ready, or what can I do? And I believe
Yeah.
that we all can do things and help people out, connect people to the right people too. So that's
Hmm.
other ways to help an organization and an NGO is like, do you know someone that maybe has a mental health company and they will be willing to support Sana? Or do you know someone that works in a different industry but might be open to, and they have like a budget for social programs or social projects, and maybe they can make a donation. So yeah, it doesn't end with coffee because humanity is who we are. We're humans. That's the only thing that makes us the same, right? We're humans. Then after that, of course, there's a lot of intersectionality, and we're all different. But yeah, it's all about the humans.
Wonderful way to close this out. I have nothing to add to that. Do you have anything else you would like to share, or you good?
No, I just thank you for opening this space, for opening this conversation to your community. And yeah, I would love to get feedback from people that listen to this and their opinions and tips and ideas, because that's how we grow. We're not perfect, but we can always change, adapt, adjust. So yeah.
Life's change.
Thank you so much.
Okay, on that note, thank you so much. And yeah, much success to you and Sana.
Thank you so much, Sandra.